First of all, again, I apologize about the sound and the lighting. We still don't have any furniture. Our house is still almost completely empty, hence the echo. And I haven't quite figured out where to film right now because I don't have any lights. But I thought this might be better than the bathroom. However, I did a fascinating experiment just recently I really wanted to share with you. I think most of us look in the mirror daily and immediately see what's wrong. We see a wrinkle, a fold, skin that doesn't look like it did 10 years ago. If you're anything like me, you have one or maybe several features your eyes go to right away when you look in the mirror. For me personally, it's the lower part of my face. More specifically, my perioral folds, which are these little guys right here. No matter how healthy and glowing my skin looks, how good my hair looks, how well I slept, these little guys are the first thing I see when I look in the mirror. And to be honest, almost daily I catch myself doing this and thinking, this would look so much better. I have a feeling I'm not the only one doing this. Maybe for you it's lifting your cheeks, raising your eyebrows, holding your neck tighter, or tilting your head back just enough to see what you used to look like. Or maybe, let's be honest, some days all of the above. But if you do one or all of these things, first of all, I think that is completely normal. We oftentimes criticize ourselves or are being ridiculed by others for being vain. And while there are many more important things than appearance, I think all of us want to be attractive. In fact, numerous studies have established a strong connection between beauty and mental health, showing that when individuals feel physically attractive, it can have a significant impact on their overall well-being. But I digress. If you do one or all of these things, you know the feeling. You hold part of your face or neck tight, and for a moment you think, yes, I like this so much better. But then you let go and you're right back where you started. But have you ever wondered if the thing or things you notice first are the only things you see? If you have become so focused on these flaws that you have lost sight of the face looking back at you? Those are the questions I found myself asking just recently when I caught myself once more, almost like an autopilot, pulling up my cheek. Had I stopped looking at my face as a whole? Had the flaws become the only thing I could see? Of course, I could have asked my husband, but he is contractually obligated to tell me I look great. So I decided to borrow another, hopefully more objective pair of eyes. I asked AI to analyze my face and recommend everything it thought I should do, from skincare to in-office procedures to plastic surgery. To make the assessment as fair as possible, I uploaded 5 different photographs, taken from different angles and with different expressions. And let's just say I did not do myself any favors picking these photographs. I had no idea what to expect. Part of me was quite curious, part of me was nervous, secretly hoping AI wouldn't recommend a completely new face. So what did AI recommend? Before we go into the actual recommendations, there was one thing I noticed. With each upload of a photograph, I uploaded them one by one. AI's analysis changed slightly. Not dramatically, but enough to catch my attention. Some recommendations became a bit stronger, others became less important. One photograph made one particular feature stand out, versus in another photo it was barely mentioned. That made me stop and think. If AI's assessment changes depending on the photograph, how much of what we see in the mirror or in a single photo is simply the result of lighting, angles, or expression? Clearly, no single photograph or single look in the mirror tells the whole story. With that in mind, Here is what AI recommended. Now, the first thing AI noticed was surprisingly my eyebrows. Maybe that shouldn't surprise me because my eyebrows and I have a complicated relationship. They have always had a mind of their own. But basically, AI suggested a subtle lift to the outer brow to create a slightly more refreshed appearance. Now, it specified that this did not automatically mean a surgical brow lift, but that there are lots of ways to create the effect of a slightly lifted brow, from shaping the brows differently, Botox to surgery. AI stressed that this recommendation was more about the results than the method. And again, while I was surprised that my eyebrows was the first thing AI noticed, I do appreciate this recommendation, since we all know that as we age, the outer part of our brows tend to not just thin a bit, but also sit lower as the skin around the eyes loses some elasticity, and we gradually lose some of the soft tissue support beneath the bone. As a result, our eyes can appear more tired and less open. It's a subtle change that happens to almost all of us and is apparently happening to me. Aside from addressing my brows, AI suggested to work on some volume restoration, especially around my temples and my upper cheeks. AI mentioned that in my photos, the transition from temple into the upper cheek wasn't perfectly continuous. It stressed that it wasn't dramatic, but that there was a slight change in contour that is common with age. It suggested a bit of volume restoration in the temples, as well as over the zygomatic arch, the upper outer cheekbone that connects the temple to the cheek, to offer some soft tissue support. It stressed that the goal was not to add volume for the sake of volume, but to gently support the facial framework, which can create a slightly more refreshed appearance while still looking completely like myself. Now, while making these recommendations, AI very kindly told me several times that overall I have fairly balanced facial proportions, an elegant bone structure, and a naturally lean athletic appearance. It felt my facial harmony was one of my biggest strengths, and that preserving those proportions is far more important than trying to erase every sign of aging. It also told me that my skin quality, especially for my age, was excellent, and that it was apparent that I was taking good care of my skin. Obviously, I liked hearing all of those things, but I wasn't quite satisfied yet because I felt that AI had not yet addressed my problem area, the area my eyes go to first every single time when I look in the mirror, my perioral folds. So for the fifth and last photo, I sent one of what I consider my worst photo, one that really highlights that area, to see whether that would change AI's assessment. And after analyzing that photo, AI told me, yes, your perioral fold is definitely noticeable in this photo. However, it also stressed that what stood out the most was that that area wasn't the dominant feature on my face. AI felt it was being emphasized by the angle, the lighting, and of course the fact that my face was naturally lean. But rather than seeing it as an isolated problem that needed to be erased, it saw it as a small part of an otherwise balanced and harmonious face. Because of that, AI recommended to not chase the fold itself, but to instead look at the face as a whole. It suggested that if the fold really bothered me, I could try to soften it a bit through continued good skincare, the suggested volume restoration to the temples and upper outer cheeks, which it felt could give enough structural support to help minimize the folds slightly, as well as treatments such as microneedling and other treatments that can stimulate collagen production, such as certain lasers, RF microneedling, or ultrasound skin tightening. Lastly, AI suggested surgical intervention, but stressed that it felt this option was reserved for more advanced signs of aging and would not be the first recommendation for someone whose overall facial harmony is already strong. It went on to say that if I wanted to make changes, they should be subtle and aimed at preserving my natural facial harmony rather than trying to eliminate one feature. It also offered that maintaining good skin quality, preserving soft tissue support where it naturally diminishes with age, and accepting that some facial lines are part of a healthy, expressive face would produce more natural results rather than trying to erase the faults. Now, I have to say I'm giving you a very shortened version of a rather long conversation I had with AI. As I mentioned, with every photo I uploaded, AI's assessment changed slightly. Not only did AI's assessment change slightly with each photograph, but I also kept pushing because I really wanted to see if with persistence, AI would get a bit more aggressive as far as its recommendations. But what I'm sharing with you were the final recommendations. So finally, after I uploaded picture 5 and we had discussed my perioral folds, I asked AI one last time for its overall assessment and recommendations. Once more, it told me very kindly that overall my face was well proportioned, my skin quality excellent, especially for my age, and that it would not focus on trying to look younger, but more refreshed. It did add that one last recommendation it had for me, aside from addressing the shape of my brows and a bit of volume restoration in my temples and upper cheeks, was to add a bit of definition to my cupid's bow, the upper lip border, which I thought was interesting because I had not mentioned this problem area. But if you've been here for a little while, you know that I have tried several different things in the hopes to soften my smoker lines, even though I have never smoked, and I actually have a whole video coming up on this subject. But I thought it was interesting that AI did focus eventually on this area, even though I never mentioned that it was bothering me. However, AI suggested that a slightly more defined upper lip border could subtly enhance facial harmony without making the lips look larger or obviously treated. So while AI, after analyzing 5 different pictures of me, did have some suggestions of subtle, let's call them improvements, while I was focused on what I saw as my biggest flaw, AI saw something completely different. It certainly noticed my perioral folds, along with a few other things, but it did not see them as a defining feature of my face. Instead, it kept looking at the bigger picture, my facial proportions, my bone structure, and the overall harmony of my face. That got me back to the questions I had asked myself earlier. How often do we become so focused on one thing we don't like that we lose sight of everything else? What surprised me most wasn't that AI ignored my concern. It didn't. It simply didn't think it deserved the same attention I was giving it. Instead of telling me to erase it, AI suggested preserving what was already working, and if I choose to make any changes, to keep them subtle. I did ask AI to create a picture incorporating these subtle changes it recommended. Let me know down below what you think. But while this was meant to be a fun experiment, the lesson I'm taking away from it is that most of us spend so much time focusing on our flaws that we forget to appreciate the things that are already beautiful about us. I know I'm certainly guilty of that. But if AI can look at a face with that much balance and perspective, maybe we can learn to look at ourselves with a bit more kindness as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you have any questions or comments. I know some of you are going to ask if I'm actually going to listen to some of AI's recommendations. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see in a future video. And thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye.